And good evening, everyone. Welcome to Trolling with Logic, 7 p.m. here in the UK and 2 p.m. Eastern Time over in the States. As you can see, our guest isn't quite here yet. We don't know what's going on, so we're going to try and hang on to. Hopefully, they'll be here very soon. But in the meantime, like I say, if you want to call in, you can ask us any questions you want. As you can see, the Skype contact details are down there, or fire us a question in the chat room. And as usual, if you call in, remember we do record everything, so it's uploaded later, so you grant us permission to use your likeness. And like I said, the recording of the show is public domain, so if you like what we're going to do, then just feel free to copy or mirror it in any way you feel like. So with me tonight, Sheila, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Cal. Thank you.
And Marty, how are you?
I'm okay.
All right, and I think we should say congratulations again to Marty. Last week you announced your wedding, and now this week you've got 10,000 subscribers. So everyone, big thumbs up and applause to Marty, and let's massage his ego a little bit more. So how's that been for you, Marty?
Yeah, no, it's no big deal really, but it's it's a landmark. I mean,
yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, you got to. You mean these things are quite important in the end. I mean, well, I suppose I'll ask you. You mean because your channel really, like the past 18 months, it's just really grown fast.
Yeah.
I mean, was there a shout out you got that caused it?
I don't know.
I think it was the Spirit Science series that seemed to catch on for whatever. I don't know, is that just because that was going out there?
I think it's that pretty much no one else is doing it.
Yeah, and you found your niche there. And also, I can also recall the story of how you found out about Spirit Science in the first place.
Yeah, that was you I have to thank for
that. In a weird way. Just everyone to let you know, as you know, myself and Marty are friends on Skype and all that. And before we did our Friday night podcast, usually on Fridays at about 10:30 my time, you would always PM saying, I want to watch some stupid videos because I've got some alcohol here.
Yeah.
And then I scoured YouTube, I found Spirit Science, I sent it through to you, and you went silent for about an hour. And you said, I'm sorry, but I actually did fall out of my chair laughing.
Yeah.
And you had to recompose yourself to speak to me again.
Yeah, I had that perfect blood alcohol level where everything Jordan said was funny.
Yeah.
So it became extremely funny, and
It just got funnier and funnier. More views. Okay, and Sheila, do you have any announcements or anything like that you can talk about?
Oh, not especially. I guess it's been kind of a slow week.
Yeah, so
it's springtime, it's beautiful, everything's going well.
And how's A News doing?
A News is doing wonderfully.
Because we've never really spoken in depth about A News, so maybe you could give us a little background on that while we wait for our guest.
Sure, I can do that. A News is kind of a sub-site from Apartment J, which is owned by Brian Allen. A News is kind of it's a 50-50 thing between my co-hosts Brian Allen and Leigh Moore. We cover atheist news mostly, and we do it with a lot of really inappropriate humor. There's a lot of dick jokes, I guess, and just making fun of various things and trying to add some humor into it. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun, actually. I mean, I have fun doing both of these podcasts, but I have fun with that one just because I get a chance to be immature and and just kind of talk out of my ass a little bit.
Because you have said we're very different podcasts, kind of the format and just the tone of both is quite different.
Yes, very much so. I like doing this one because I get a chance to talk to people I probably ordinarily wouldn't get to.
Yeah.
Philosophers and authors and people into politics and scientists and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not that we don't necessarily cover that stuff on A News, but it's a lot less serious. We don't really cover any real information, I guess. So it is. It's. I love doing both of them. You guys are all awesome.
Oh, cheers. So we're all massaging each other's egos here very well.
Right.
Okay, and like I say, if anyone in the chat room, if you do just want to ask us a question, because I don't know, we never really get the question. We're always relaying questions for our guests. So if you do want to ask us anything at all, just fire ahead, or if you want to call us up on Skype, feel free. And like I said, just probably one more news for the charity show was, Marty, if I'm right, Logic's confirmed this week, didn't he?
Yeah, he said he's interested, but it depends on what time slot we can get him. And I haven't. Well, maybe he's responded now. I'm not going to go check now, but
yeah. But well, I think if you're subscribed to Marty, it's a pretty safe bet you'll know who Logic is. He's a really cool, funny, masked debunker is the best way. But yeah, he's awesome. He's very funny, and hopefully we can get him a good time slot, and we'd love to have him on. Okay. Notice nobody's got anyone. Nope, there's no meaningful questions right now. People are just... The chat room is filled up with trolls today for whatever reason, so... Yeah. And like I say, just anyone, if you do want to call in, I'll just see if we have...
We clearly have this troll there. What's his name? Angry Pumpkin, it says.
Someone's wanting you to sing a lullaby, Marty.
No.
Not even a Norwegian one.
Nope. That's not going to happen.
No.
I don't sing, not even in the shower.
Maybe you could read out some IKEA instructions or something in your native tongue.
You translate the pictures?
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, IKEA is just look at them and then look at the instructions and then go no way and just go back to what I was doing before.
What's happening with you, Cal? You're asking.
I've never had a problem with it.
What's happening with me? Not really that much. I'm always just busy doing this. No, I'm not used to getting questions because we do have the Antimatter Bandits that's ongoing, and like I say, we're coming to the end of Voyager Season 1, Marty, aren't we?
Yeah.
I say, and for those of you who don't know, Antimatter Bandits is an offshoot of this show. It's myself and Marty. We've done quite a lot of it so far, but there is other Fulcrum Tool and other people you'll recognise from this. We just get together and we like to do commentaries on bad science fiction. For whatever reason, we just seem to really enjoy ripping on really bad sci-fi. And yeah, we've almost done the whole first season of Voyager, and we've got a whole lot of other movies lined up, don't we, Marty?
Yeah.
I think today...
We've been talking about Mission to Mars, we've been talking about in 2012.
And today someone mentioned Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's a guilty pleasure of mine because it really is so bad, it's awesome.
Yeah. Like, I always just loved the line in that film, like, thieves always taking what isn't yours. Which is just like, isn't that the whole point of a thief?
And it's there's also the constant overacting from Jeremy Irons and what's her name? The Empress who isn't even trying to act at all.
Okay, give me a second. I do believe we do have a guest. Our guest is here, so Marty and Sheila, you'll have to entertain for a few minutes while I get a hold of them.
Okay, well, I guess, someone in the chat room mentioned asked about my...
We've lost you there, Marty.
Action with Jordan recently.
Hello.
Hi there, Kona.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry about that. I kept sending the request through to you, and nothing was happening. So.
Oh no, I don't know why. I finally just added you. I saw on your website.
All right, great. All right. So everybody, please welcome to the show from Godless Comics, Kona Morris.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Hello.
All right, so, and as always, I'll hand over to Sheila at this point to get the introductory questions.
Excellent.
Hi, I guess we'll start with a little bit of background on you. Have you always been an atheist?
I was not raised with religion. So I think like a lot of people who had parents that didn't. Oh, is it still working here? Am I still on?
Yep, you're still on.
Yes, you are.
Okay, sorry, I'm getting weird Skype messages. So yeah, like I said, my mom was raised in a very traditional Jewish house. My father was, I think, Protestant, and then they both became hippies. And we had Hanukkah and Christmas for a while when I was a kid, and then at some point, my dad made a Star of David out of duct tape and put it up on top of the Christmas tree. So it was a very liberal house, and I think that welcomed free thinking. I had thoughts as a child and questions. I don't know that I was always, strictly atheist. And really my favorite term now, I got it from Richard Dawkins, is probability theorist. And I think that it's just more to the point, that it's a matter of probability. And I feel like it's self-defining in a way, and possibly more welcoming to larger groups of people.
Yeah,
I'm not against the word atheist. I'm wearing my proud atheist shirt, though.
Okay.
Excellent. Well, how did you get started doing the atheist comics or the Godless comics?
Sure. So a friend of mine and I, John Olson, he's the other writer for it, and actually Chris Henry, he's our artist. We all grew up in Northern California, in Humboldt County. It's where the redwood trees are, just south of Portland on the coast. And have you seen the Chick tracks? Do you know those?
Yeah, the Chick tracks, I've heard of them.
Yeah, the Chick tracks. So we were all given many of those. I mean, they would be like waiting outside the high school, and it was just sort of an ongoing hilarity to look at these Chick tracks trying to indoctrinate children and scare them away from, things like being gay and spread Christianity. So we'd been talking for years about doing a parody of it. John and I had, and then I think we were having a Skype date with Chris, just all of us talking about projects we were working on, a possible screenplay. And Chris said that he would be interested in illustrating. And so we came up with, I think, Thank God and No Thinking Aloud were our first two. And we actually just finished with two more. So we're going to be having two more printed probably within the month. So
Excellent.
I don't know if that answered. So yeah, it was just the desire to spread something else. And I love satire in the medium of comics. So
Right. I understand that Dawkins kind of helped launch it into the public eye a little bit more for you.
Yeah. So the way that worked, we had our friend Nate Jordan, who's he's moved away and not so involved anymore, but he really helped us to get started. He had a printing system over at his house, so we had a couple prototypes that we made. Dawkins was coming to Colorado. He was doing a lecture at the University of Colorado Boulder, and I had gotten us all tickets. And so I ended up leaving the lecture about 40 minutes early to go be first in line for the book signing. And I had our comics, and I had a few books I wanted him to sign as well. But when he sat down, I showed him the comics, and he actually initially thought they were the Chick tracks. He was like, no, I don't want those. And I was like, well, these are parodies that we made. And we, we'd love to see if you're interested in possibly helping us spread them. And then he started looking, and he was laughing, and he said, oh, these are fantastic. And he immediately called over, I think it was Mike and Susan, the people running his website, Susie runs his store, and Mike runs the website. And he called them over and said, get her contact information and make this happen. She wants to sell them on the website. I think I'd mentioned it. So yeah, it was amazing, his, just immediate acceptance and reception of it. So then we worked with Susie and Mike and got him up on the website, and it really gave us a huge boost. We did a Kickstarter to raise the money to print them. And so that was a major success. I think we made twice as much money as we had hoped for. So that was great. We still have a little bit to print these next two. Yeah.
Excellent.
So it was wonderful. Dawkins has been a hero of mine for a long time. So
we have a question. Somebody's asking what a chick track is.
Okay. I wish I had a copy of one around here. I probably do, buried somewhere. If you just Google Jack Chick, it would come up, and you can see them online. But they're basically a tiny little comic that's made very cheaply. I mean, there's just a couple staples on the side, and so the Chick tracks are Christian comics designed to, a lot of them are using fear tactics to try to win over the hearts and minds of children. So there's some really terrible ones. I mean, the classics are, a little boy that says, oh, I have feelings for my friend, Johnny, and I'm trying to repress them, but, it's getting more hard, it's getting more difficult. And then these two little boys are about to kiss, and suddenly here comes this evil Satan figure who says, okay, now you're going to smolder in the fires of hell forever, because, it's all propaganda, and it's very disgusting. Actually, I'm not sure what this show's rated, but the worst ever it's just mind-blowing. And I think it's actually worth money at this point, because they had to call them back because they were facing some legal issues. It was so bad. It was, I can't remember what it was called, but I've seen it once. There was a dad sitting in a doctor's office. So this is the original Chick track Christian comics that we are satiring. So he's sitting in the doctor's office, and the doctor says, well, Jim, I've been your family doctor for a long time, and I really love you, but we've got something serious to talk about. And he's like, oh, what is it? He's like, well, your daughter has herpes, and it's the same herpes strand that I know you have. And he has like this 5-year-old daughter or 6-year-old daughter. It's just awful. And then the doctor says, and legally, I'm supposed to send you to I'm supposed to call the police when, I'm aware of something like this. But I know that the police aren't really going to help you. The only person that can save you is Jesus. And then it just shows him like them going to church, and the last panel is the happy family sitting in a church pew, and the little girl is like smiling, and Jesus is shining light on them. And it is the sickest and wrongest Christian propaganda comic that has ever existed, I think. And it's just that sort of ugliness that we wanted to try to combat with humor and reason. I mean,
yeah, because I got given them in school. Like I said,
exactly.
It's a bit different in the UK. Well, especially where I lived, because I'm in a kind of very Calvinist community, and they were just openly giving it, distributing them to us in the classroom. So,
wow. Yeah, same here. I mean, I remember them as young as maybe 5th grade, 6th grade, seeing these. And they're, so some of ours are more earnest, and some of ours are more just purely humorous. One of our best satires is the Thank God, where it's these two football teams praying for victory, and our God is based on, he looks like Wilford Brimley. We call him Godford Godly. And he's listening to all these other prayers. There's, starving children and AIDS victims and cartels destroying whole villages. And he says, oh, there's a lot of prayers today, but they all have to be put on hold because it's the day of the big game, and he's drinking Godweiser beer, and he has to, and then he ends up flipping a coin to see which team will win.
I liked that one a lot. I also liked the Sky Cake one.
Oh, yay. Okay, so that was the only one we didn't write. That was written by Patton Oswalt, the comedian, and that was one of my favorite comic bits that I had ever seen. And I sent him messages, finally got a hold of him and said, we make these comics. We would love to adapt your Sky Cake bit to comic form. And he actually gave us permission. He has Godless Comics t-shirts. I sent him a box of something like 30 comics. So, yeah,
That's
it was
awesome.
really exciting. Thank you.
Okay. Marty, you've been quiet, and there is a chat room question there. You can read that one out.
Yeah, I guess I can rephrase it. The inspiration for your comics, is it just the chick tracts, or do you find inspiration elsewhere as well?
It started off thinking it would be funny. Really the whole idea with making it look like the chick tracts is this hope that maybe, somebody who's already indoctrinated as a Christian would, or somebody who's very religious would pick it up thinking it was the other one. Yeah. And start to read it. And we wanted to be subtle. At least the first few, where they might actually read it thinking that it's a chick tract, and then at some point realize that it's offering something else. And it was pure idealism to think that maybe it would actually change people, win people over. But we're inspired by all sorts of things now. One of the scripts that we're just finishing on right now is currently being called Foreskin Fairy. And it's about circumcision, and it's this little foreskin fairy who takes this unborn baby boy through the history of circumcision, and both in Judaism and ancient Rome, and then through Western medicine. And then the other one is actually, excuse me, it's the debate between agnosticism and atheism. There's a lot of people who find a safe place in just calling themselves agnostic, and it's really pushing the idea of probability theory, being a probability theorist, and how, not all options are weighed equally. And it takes place in hipster Portland. And there's a spaghetti monster and a unicorn and all sorts of fairies. And we even have a Richard Dawkins page where he's sitting in his library and gives us a really good quote. But yeah, so we get inspiration all over, and they've sort of taken, different angles. The idea is just to make a accessible form to convey important information or humor, or both.
Yeah, I tend to think when I haven't read a lot of those chick tracts, but I've seen a couple of them, and I think they're humorous as they are. They're so exaggerated, and so it's just, wait a minute, is this Poe's Law comes to mind. Is this someone being serious, or is this satire because it's so absurd?
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's often the case where it seems like it must be funny to them as well, right? Because it's just so absurd to, take two little boys and throw them in the pit of hell for kissing each other, or, whatever it is. I don't think I've seen some interviews with Jack Chick, and I don't believe he is doing it in any kind of humorous way. Maybe he's trying to use cartoons and some funny language to become more endearing or accessible for children or something, but I don't get the sense that, his agenda is clearly one of a fundamentalist.
Okay, there's another question that came up there. Marty, you can take them right now.
Yeah. Have you gotten any overtly negative reactions to your comics?
Oh yeah, that was actually when we were thinking that we were at least starting to make it. Was I started getting hate mail, and I actually, one of our Kickstarter supporters sent me a message saying, you know, you got to be careful and you know, make sure to not have your address and you know, real address, real phone number in any way listed online where people can contact you. But I was getting some, and we have an info@godlesscomics.com email, and I've gotten a lot of hate mail, a lot of you're going to burn in hell for spreading the word of Satan. I mean, just very classic.
Yeah, I'm kind of familiar with the concept. I just find it hilarious.
Yeah, people are so godly would say such things.
Okay, we do have a caller lined up, so Sheila or Marty, if you can take a few questions, I'll get the caller in.
Yeah, there's another question here. Are you thinking about translating these comics? I think the Spanish-speaking community could benefit from them.
Absolutely. I'm not sure if it's completely fallen through, but while we were pushing the Kickstarter, I was on Reddit a lot, the Reddit Atheist page, and someone I met through there, he was a university student, I believe in Mexico City, had actually offered to translate in Spanish. We said we were all for it, and I'm not sure what happened. I haven't heard back from him. It's been a while, so definitely interested. It's still, for us, it's still just a labor of love. I wish we had the kind of funds where I could, you know, hire somebody to do that right away. We're kind of, like I said, just saved enough money to print the next 2 comics that we're almost done with. It's almost ready to go to the printer, so we're hoping we sell enough of those that we can keep these going. But we would just need somebody to probably volunteer their time, and if we start selling them, you know, be happy to give them something for their efforts. We did just the newest one, the issue between, you know, the conversation between the agnostic and the atheist, is a new artist that we decided to who wanted to illustrate one of our comics. So we've just, mostly not made anything but more comics. But I'd love it. Definitely, if anybody's out there who wants to translate it, any of them in any language, we're all for it, and just go ahead and contact me.
Yep. Strangely enough, someone in our chat room was saying they'd like to translate them into Spanish for you.
Yeah,
so
excellent.
So just fire them a message, and I'm sure Kona will be happy to
please. info@godlesscomics.com, and I will get right back to you with that, and I can send you this, the scripts. That would be fantastic.
Just one question before we go to the caller. Have you had an official response from the makers of the Chick Tracts at all?
Nothing yet.
Right.
I know we were sort of that and Wilfred Brimley. We're sort of hoping we don't, get any communication from lawyers. But so far, nothing. So here's for hoping. Not yet.
Okay, and Pumpkin, are you there?
No, I am not.
All right. Goodbye then.
Okay, moving on then.
And welcoming back the always charming Angry Pumpkin. How are you doing?
I'm fucking grand.
All right. Ask your question then.
As someone who works in a shop, a fairly large shop, I'm constantly handed Chick Tracts by people. Would you ever think about bringing it to mass publication to the point where people can hand them out in the street and, do the ever so irritating thing of leaving them in toilets? Which I would actually say you mightn't want to do that one, because generally when I get a chick tract, I just put it in the urinal so people can piss all over it.
I appreciate that very much. We have left them. John is a big advocate for just leaving them everywhere. We've left them in bus stops. I'm not sure if we've left them in toilets yet. But yeah, we're all for it. I mean, ideally, I'd love to get to the point where we can print these cheap enough that we can. I mean, I think what Chick Tracts does is churches all over can send in, and they can buy them for dirt cheap. You know, maybe 50 cents or 5 cents. I don't even know, 10 cents or something a copy. And they can get these boxes, and they can even have information for their own church printed on the back.
Yeah.
So I would love that. And I've had a couple skeptics and atheist organizations say they'd be interested. I mean, the problem is, so far we haven't been able to print them in such a large quantity that we can get the price down that cheaply. As I said, you know, none of us have made any money off it, and we'd be happy to, you know, just do it for the comics. It's just a matter of trying to, you know, figure out those logistics. We do have it up on issue. So if you go to our website, godlesscomics.com, click on the comics, you can read them all online for free. And I believe you can just print them straight from the issue page. But we're all for sharing them. I mean, we've had electronic copies that we've sent to people so they can. There was somebody at the Atheist Convention in Melbourne last year, I believe, who said they were going to print a bunch and put them together. We were trying to make it, you know, so that was a possibility. People can just print them, cut them, staple them, and spread them. And that's what it's really all about. I mean, it's just spreading the goodness, for goodness sake.
Anything else, Pumpkin?
Yeah, well, I do appreciate that there is an element of seriousness to this. I would like to point out that since it's a party, have you ever thought of just printing out a load of them and just over the course of like a month consistently sending them to Jack Trick's house?
I mean, part of it is just, I know our artist, Chris Henry, he's probably the one who's been the most worried about getting sued. So, I mean, if, you know, the only reason we wouldn't is just because, you know, keeping it out of his attention means keeping us out of courts or something. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know that he actually would have a case, because the only thing that, I mean, other than he certainly hasn't copywritten the size and style. I mean, that style, it's just like the block of text on the front with the black and the white that makes it look like Chick Tracts. So I really don't know if there's a, you know, legality issue there, but I do hope he sees them at some point. I would just need to get together with the rest of the Godless comics and make that decision with them if we're actually going to send him a box.
Fair enough.
Just wanted to ask you, Pumpkin, did you get these comics at school as well, like I did? Or is it just
I didn't. I wasn't like handed them out by the teacher, but they were conveniently left all around the canteen. But they actually stopped when people started lighting them on fire or actually using them to wipe their asses with. I believe someone once wrote on one and stuck it under the headmaster's door saying, "You can't wipe shit with shit, but here's my attempt."
Beautiful.
Yeah, you're not doing anything to dispel the stereotypes we have of Northern Ireland, are you?
Yeah, we're bastards and we've agreed to it already.
So you got anything else, Pumpkin?
Nothing serious, but more might come to me later.
All right. Thanks for calling in.
That's some serious multitasking. You're talking here and banning people in the chat room at the same time. That is...
I am your resident
amazing.
hammer wielder.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of trolls today, it seems.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, there's a question just popped up there. To Kona, would you consider doing a parody of the Watchtower? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, of course. Actually, I was in Italy last summer, and I was waiting for a bus up in sort of near the Dolomites, and it was just sort of this tiny, tiny little town, and a woman came up with who just spoke Italian. I speak a little Spanish, but yo necesito practicar mucho. But she gave me a copy of The Watchtower, and she was speaking in Italian very fast. And I actually brought a ton of comics with me. I had this case that was just full of comics that I kept opening up and just handing to people. And I found that the Are You Scared of Hell, the one about the little boy whose teacher ends up losing his job because the little boy is being psychologically abused, and he compares him to the little girl who was physically abused and how they have the same look of terror on their face. So I found that one actually was translating the best for people who didn't speak much English. So she handed me a copy of The Watchtower, and I handed her a copy of the Are You Scared of Hell? We've definitely talked about it. I'd love to. I mean, more than anything, it's just that we all have other jobs, and we're doing this sort of as a, labor of love side project. And it's just a matter of, time and organization. But I'm all for it. And if anybody out there has funds and they want to help sponsor us and allow us to do this full time, or, even more often, we are all for it. We definitely have the motivation to. It's just a matter of time. Our artist is now a traveling bead salesman. It's as if it's the 1970s. He was growing a mustache, and he has this little white van that he's driving all around the country with handmade glass beads, I think from the Czech Republic, and selling beads. And in his motel rooms, he's illustrating comics. So yeah, it's just a probability, practical factor, since we have other jobs.
Yeah, there was a good question that came up there. Do you ever intend to do comics on other religions? And I think he's kind of leading into, kind of all the furore over kind of comics of Islam. Is that something you would consider doing?
Absolutely. And it was never, again, we started it, I think, being raised in America, which is just, a fundamentalist Christian, state, if any. It was just our natural first target, especially satiring chick tracts. But it's definitely always been our intention to spread it around. And the Foreskin Fairy is sort of aimed at the Jewish religion. There's the couple in the comic, our young Jewish couple who are having a boy, it talks about the medical history of circumcision as well, but it also refutes the need to do it for, to Jewish babies. Or as Dawkins would say, there are no Jewish babies, they're just babies of Jewish parents. And that works for any religion. We would definitely do one, on Islam. We would do, we have, there's a page in I think it's the Wanna Bet comic, where there's an image of virgins in heaven with margaritas. And, we're not trying to only target Christianity for sure. It just sort of happened that way. We have another one that was sort of Westboro Baptist. We're debating if it's, too much to call it God Hates Fags. But we have one that's all, we've just been trying to word the script right, and we haven't quite got there yet. But it's all about homosexuality, and that's sort of for multiple religions.
Okay. Sheila or Marty, do you want to come in there? I'll go and see any more questions from the chat.
Well, yeah, there is one. What is the most interesting reaction you've got from someone who's seen your comics?
The most interesting. I've had a lot of people send me messages with ideas for new comics, which is fantastic. And usually our response for everyone is we love collaboration. Again, it's not like we have a ton of money where all of our money is going towards making new comics and spreading them out. But certainly if anybody wants to join us and collaborate and write new comics, illustrate new comics. Our artist is very busy, and although he does want to continue, he's illustrating Foreskin Fairy right now, but we are not at all opposed to having guest artists and guest writers. I'm trying to remember what the question was. I'm sorry.
What's the most interesting reaction you got?
We've, during the Kickstarter, we had one person bring us up to our goal, which was just incredible. There was somebody who donated, I think it was $1,600, and he did it anonymously and just said, "This is so necessary," and gave us this amazing amount of funds, and that helped bring us to our goal for Kickstarter and give us the ability to spread lots. I think people either love them or they hate them, or they just have no idea of how to respond. I can't think of anything more specific at the moment. I'll come back to it if I do. I'm kind of racking my brain.
It's a pretty vague question, I guess. But yeah.
I like interesting. I don't know. Hate mail, love mail. A lot of people have sent messages about having, seen so many Chick tracts as children, and there's some people who collect the Chick tracts. I've had people, say that they're going to start a Godless Comics collection with their Chick tracts collection. But yeah, nothing. It's been great. I think people have received it very well. Probably Patton Oswalt letting us illustrate his comic bit has been the happiest moment. I've been trying to get a hold of, if anybody out there knows how to get a hold of Jim Jeffries, he has a comic bit called God at a Party that is just brilliant, and it's just what an asshole God is. He's sitting there at the party, hating on everyone and ordering everyone around, and basically a malignant thug. So I've been trying to reach out, getting sending him messages, sending his agents messages, and haven't quite got a hold of him yet. But that's one of our plans.
Have you sent him a copy of Patton Oswalt's comic? What you guys did with that one?
All the messages I've sent out has had a link to the Skycake Online, but I don't know if he's just a busy guy. I think he's going to be touring in the U.S. this summer. I won't be here, but John will, and I think we're going to try to get into one of his shows so we can at least go up afterwards and talk to him in person.
I was just going to ask, do you intend to respond to all of the Chick tracts, or is it just the more notorious ones? Or is your goal just to do a complete response?
Yeah, it's not that we've never taken any specific Chick tract and done, a satire of that one. It's sort of just general, using the same format and design. They're all ideas that we came up with ourselves. It's not, I don't think any of our ideas have been specifically in response to any particular Chick tract, just sort of in general. Like I said, they have so many that are anti-gay. We definitely want to put some that promote gay rights. And then I think for me, maybe the one has the most direct response to Chick tracts is the "Are You Scared of Hell?" Which I don't know. I love them all, but that one is very dear to me because it's just so mind-boggling the way that people don't recognize it as psychological abuse, and so I was really. We actually use our artists. Was looking at a Chick tract, I believe, when he got the idea for how to illustrate the look of abuse on the kid's face. And it's usually that look is what Chick tracts shows to, for the kids who have been sent to hell for, gay thoughts or whatever it is. I don't know.
Okay, Sheila or Marty, do you want to come in?
I guess you kind of touched on this a little bit. Do you have anything else that you want to do? I mean, outside of the comics, are you guys hoping to branch out into doing like t-shirts and that sort of stuff?
Oh, we have t-shirts. I could possibly I could run upstairs and grab one and show you. It's just, it's our image that's on our website of Godford Godly falling from the sky with a little sign that says help. And then we actually made beer koozies as well. And those were all Chick Track rewards. So we made t-shirts that just say Godless Comics and God's falling out of the sky with a help sign, Wile E. Coyote style. We have the beer koozies use the logo for Budweiser, but it says Godweiser.
Right.
And I mean, we're all for it. Again, I think, all
Funding.
three of us would at any point love to do this full time, and really one of the dreams is to go to the International Atheist Convention in Melbourne and be able to bring boxes. Ideally, I'd love to just be able to pass them out. I'd love to send a box to every skeptic, atheist, humanist organization on the planet and have them spread it out. And we, another idea was once we get enough comics, in our catalog, to put them together into a hardback book. So it's sort of like a coffee table book that just has all the comics in there. And, because we were trying to keep the printing costs down, because we don't have much money, they're just paper with staples, and it's pretty simple. Like I said, the other reason we did that was so people can just print them themselves and make them. And that's what the Chick Tracks look like. But ultimately, I think it would be fantastic to have, glossy page, nice hardback comic book that just contains all of them. One of my dreams, and I've just been busy with other things, but I definitely want to do it, is send a box to Jon Stewart with a note that says, I want to be your second guest. Because they need a second guest, We'll never be the first guest, but they need somebody that comes on after the commercial break. Everybody's left. And, half the people don't watch the second half. But, we're hoping to spread it more that way. All about, t-shirts, posters, anything else. I mean, we'd love it. It's just a purely a matter of funds.
Right.
I was going to say it sounds like you've had quite a good international reaction, not just in the States, but all over the world. You're getting good feedback, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think I sent it. So with our Kickstarter, we had supporters, I believe it was something, I want to say 42, but that's just the answer to the universe. I think it was 40 or 41 different countries. And we were on 6 different continents. So that was fantastic. I mean, we had so many different people from all over the world support us. With the Kickstarter, I think the most common donation we got was the $25, which was, one of each comic, plus I think a koozie or something, and we sent it out. And so last year at this time, I had this entire room was full of boxes and envelopes, and it was like a factory line sending them out. We sent something like, I think it was almost 500 envelopes, packages, boxes, all over the world. So that was amazing. We've had a lot of people in the Netherlands, UK, Australia. We had quite a few supporters. Spain. We had, I think, one of the most interesting locations was Nigeria. It's wonderful. We had some in Korea and just all over. It was China, wondering if envelopes were going to be opened by different governments.
Okay, Sheila or Marty, do you want to come in there?
Well, there's another question from the chat room. Have you ever tried getting sponsorship from skeptic or humanist organizations?
Sure. I mean, one of the ways that we've tried, we've been interviewed on a couple different blogs and websites. We really were pushing it when we were doing the Kickstarter. We haven't been as active recently, but as I was mentioning to Cal, setting this up, we're about to have actually 3 new comics once the Foreskin Fairy is done. And so we're really, excited to kind of jump back in. We saved just enough funds to have one more run of comics, and then we'll be definitely becoming more active online. But one of the things we did was on Reddit Atheists or Reddit Atheism. We just promoted it as much as possible. Another thing I did was I went to the startups website and sent messages to basically every humanist, skeptic, atheist, agnostic organization I could find. And we've had some response. I mean, we've had a few people. There was a group in Chicago that just sent me a message maybe a few weeks ago saying they'd love to get a box. And I think, again, I mean, the issue is it would be nice if we had a friend who could do mass printing. When we first started, we had hopes that we'd be able to do it at our friend Nate's house, who runs a press, Monkey Puzzle Press. It's a small literary journal. And so we were hoping that we would have means to print them cheaper and more often. And instead, it's, a lot of money and to try to get the printing. And so, I need to find a way to print them cheaper, basically, so that I can send them out to more organizations and not charge. I think right now we're charging something like $1 a comic if they buy them in quantity. But that's even twice as much as Chick Tracts. And it's just because he's gotten to the point where he can, print such quantities that I think he can get a cheap bulk rate. I don't know. Yeah. But yes, we're all for organizations becoming involved, and certainly, I mean, one of the ideas I had to kind of help with our financial issue is if people want to, send us money to print it and have it sent directly to them from our printer, we can do that as well. And really, I mean, other than maybe being able to pay some of the artists, we can do it as close to at cost as possible.
Okay, Mike, another question came in from the chat room there.
Yeah, any plans to cover stuff like pseudoscience and esoteric mumbo jumbo?
Of course. I love attacking soft brain ideas of things like astrology. So one of our new comics that I'm very excited about, actually, it's called, I think we're calling it Creation or Creation Tales. And it's about a group of little children in a Sunday school, sort of night or evening Sunday school class. And the pastor tells the story of how God created everything in 6 days and took a nap. And then one of the kids raises his hand and says, "Oh, that's fantastic. That's a great story." And he's Native American, and he says, "Well, my tribe has a story about how the world was created too." And the pastor tries to stop him, but he continues and he tells the story. And that excites all the other children in the Sunday school group. One of them says, "Oh, my teacher told us a story about an African tribe and what they, how they believe the world was started." We tell like the Hopi story. The world is on, is it a tortoise on another tortoise? Is that the one? Yeah. So there's several different ones. And my favorite is this little child that looks like David Duchovny. And he has a "I want to believe" shirt on, and he tells a story about ancient aliens who came and injected their DNA into primates. So, I mean, we definitely are all for it. It's just a matter of, and if whoever wrote that has a script idea for us, again, info@godlesscomics.com. We're all about collaboration. You know, write scripts, illustrate it. Godless Comics can be for everyone. We might not have enough money to print it or pay you, but if you can help raise funds, you're more than welcome to, we'll help you put it together.
I was just going to ask, is it a lot of work that goes into making a strip?
Oh, yeah. I mean, usually it starts with an idea, as I said, and Chris, our artist, is often involved with the writing too. John and I usually do the scripts. So we'll get together. We just got together last week to finish the Foreskin Fairy script. And so we get together sometimes, maybe like I'll come up with a story idea and I'll just write it almost as a narrative. And then John is really great about translating it into breaking it up for different panels. And then we come up with ideas for, what images we'd like to see. And then we send it to Chris, and he sort of plays around with it, comes up with his other ideas. And it's just a back and forth for, maybe a couple weeks. And then Chris adds so much too. I mean, he adds there's so many things that he brings to life that we had never even thought to do with just his choice for the illustrations, the personalities and expressions on people's faces. So the whole process, we were trying to figure out how much time Chris spends illustrating them, but it takes a long time. I mean, a lot of it, initially there's drafting, and then we usually set up some kind of Skype meeting where he shows us, and we contribute to, whether or not the characters look right. And then once we get it fine, he does a final draft. We do a very tedious proofreading. And actually, the first batch that we made, the prototypes in Nate's garage, they had some typos that were awful. We were mortified. I think the copy I gave Richard Dawkins had a couple typos on it. It was, as an editor, it just was very painful for me to accept that I had given him typos. And then once we think it's perfect, he inks them, and then it's a matter of doing some Photoshop last minute cleaning up lines, and then we take it through InDesign to put it all together in one booklet, and then we've been working with this local printing company here to print them. But it's a long process, and again, the challenge is that we all have full-time jobs, so we're doing it in the wee hours of the morning, and I think that more than anything is what takes so long. We finished, the scripts that are just now nearly finished being illustrated were ones that we finished last summer. So, and part of that was Chris had this new traveling bead salesman job, so he hasn't had that much time to illustrate. But it's taken a long time. It's taken way too long.
Okay, just to let everyone know, we're featured on the front page of Vaughan, so if you're sitting there on the front page, we're interviewing Kona Morris of Godless Comics, so please feel free to join in the chat and ask any questions. And speaking of that, Marty, I think there is there's a question there you can...
Yeah, there's a couple of questions. One you actually missed that I think came before this one. Someone asked if you would be willing to make fun of UFO nutters. And I'm guessing the answer is yes, because you seem willing to make fun of anyone.
We're pretty much willing. I think the safest bet is the South Park theory of humor, that to make fun of anyone, you have to make fun of everyone. Yeah. And that was the whole thing with Chef Isaac Hayes, trying to get them not to do the Scientology episode, right? You can't. Suddenly if you ever pick any group not to make fun of, then it becomes a personal attack on all the groups that you have made fun of. So I very strongly believe that you make fun of everyone and everything at all times. So we're all for it. Like I said, we have the little David Duchovny kid with the I Want to Believe shirt. One of my favorite books is Carl Sagan's Demon Haunted World. It's brilliant, and a lot of what he talks about in that book is how interesting it is that we went from a species of people who saw demons and witches and you know, these sort of things in the Middle Ages, and then now in the last couple centuries it's moved to aliens, and that it's just more like of a socially acceptable paranoia, you know, delusion,
Right.
to embrace is aliens and alien abductions as opposed to demon abductions. I'd love to do one that honored, you know, Carl Sagan and use some quotes from that book.
Cool. And then there's one, and I think I'm pretty sure what the answer is going to be. Any chance of animated versions?
That would be great. Again, yeah, we love it. If you know anyone who can fund us to do that, we are all for it. You've got, so every member of Godless Comics would happily quit their job and do this full time if we could get some kind of contract like that. You know, Chris, our artist, is so phenomenal. I should give him a shout out too. He does black velvet paintings. And actually, I'm going to bring my computer. So, and so he would be amazing to do animated cartoons. This is Freddie Mercury.
Oh,
I don't know if you could see it.
that's great.
That he did for me. And speaking of Carl Sagan, let me see. This is my Carl Sagan that he did.
Oh,
Cool.
wow.
Yeah, so I think it's hellochristhenry.com is his website. And he does, I mean, he'll make anything. He draws, he'll do a black velvet painting of someone's pets, their grandparents, all sorts of, I mean, he has a whole black velvet gallery, everything from, I don't know, porn stars to, he does Wookiees, actually. He has a Chewbacca. That's probably my favorite. It's pretty amazing. So, and he just does those, you know, people can order them anywhere and he'll ship them to you. So, but yeah, we'd love to.
I guess the problem with animations is that it takes so much time. It's just insane. I've messed around with it a little, and it's just wow. Even with some decent software to do most of the work for you, it's still a lot of work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, is it's a full-time job. I mean, doing anything right is a full-time job. What I want for Godless Comics, what I'd like to do with this is a full-time job. I'm also a writer, and I'm an English professor, and I should say an English professor. I'm a terrible one. I actually don't speak grammatically half the time. But you know, so it's just a matter of, I also run another publishing, like a small press for flash fiction. So just so many projects going on. I'd love to do Godless Comics full time. Chris Henry does not like driving around the country in a van selling beads, and he is the most talented artist I've ever met, and would love to do it full time, even if it was, you know, ridiculously time consuming. It just needs to, you know, give him enough money to live on, and he's trying. I mean, with his black velvet paintings and other things, he's trying to get there. But if we could do something like an animated series, he would drop everything in a heartbeat, I know, and dive in. So
You had mentioned animation. Somebody suggested maybe Dark Matter. Have you considered maybe contacting him? I know he does a lot of kind of parody stuff like this.
I haven't. Oh, I should though. That's a great idea. Yeah, I think that sounds fantastic. Again, I mean, we're sort of in a boat where, you know, once Dawkins said that he would sell us on his website, And his store, Susie, and I'm not sure if she's still the person that's in charge of the store, but she said that he was bringing our comics around to different lectures and conventions. It was like on his table with his books,
Wow.
which, you know, just thrills us beyond belief.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, we were so motivated at that point. We were doing the Kickstarter. Like I said, I think we were going for 4,000 and we made twice as much, and it just blew our minds. And, you know, half of it was spent immediately just printing and shipping out the the rewards for the people who donated. And we, we just, I mean, in the last year, I think we've sort of just been waiting to get more comics illustrated, and right now we're just kind of jumping back in. So I haven't spent a ton of time recently with promotions and contacts and things like that, but my semester is almost over and I will be a person again with time. So I definitely have the commitment. We all do. Again, it's just a matter of doing it as a labor of love.
Right. I know he's collaborated recently with someone else doing another cartoon, so it's entirely possible. It's a good idea.
Definitely. I just wrote it down right here. I'm very excited. Yeah.
I think it's great that you guys are, kind of reaching out and accepting ideas and scripts and stuff from other people. I think that's wonderful. It could certainly help you guys expand a little bit.
Definitely. I mean, it was one of the regrets I had for the first batch that we printed is just that I don't necessarily think we even need to put our individual names on the back. We had it, written by Kona and John, illustrated by Chris. I mean, really, I would like to make it more about just the company, Godless Comics. And again, open invitation. I mean, especially if somebody can come to the table with ideas for us to get more funds. I mean, I feel like maybe we could do a Kickstarter again at some point, but I feel like, I mean, we went as far as we could with it probably.
Right.
But it's an open invitation to anybody who has ideas. I mean, a lot of people have came to us with great ideas, and some of them, I mean, we've considered. It's just, as a writer, I've had a lot of people, when I say, okay, I write short stories and working on a novel. And it's sort of the most hilarious response I get sometimes is someone who says, oh, great, you're a writer. I have a wonderful idea for a book. Here you go. And it's this idea that, like, I just want to write their book for them. And, it's not really how it works. I mean, you're struggling to have the time and motivation to do the ideas that you want to see come to life. So I think it would be fantastic if anybody wants to write a script and we can collaborate with them, or if anybody wants to illustrate. We have a few scripts that need illustrations. And again, Chris is kind of working as fast as he can, which is a much slower pace now that he has a job. We're open to collaboration. We'd love to see it grow. It's just hard to do as a hobby in the middle of the night after full-time jobs.
I was going to ask, how did the shout out from Richard Dawkins happen? How did that all come about?
Oh, the shout out for Richard. Well, he was, I think I started mentioning this in the beginning. He was giving a lecture at UC Boulder. And that was sort of always my dream was, he will love it. And there's so many famous atheists who I think would like to see this spread, especially because it really is about spreading the ideas. I mean, that's what we want more than anything. So I went to his lecture with John and Nate. Chris wasn't able to come because he's in Portland, but we went to the lecture, and it was as hard as it was to stop hearing him talk. I left early to go to be in the head of the line at the book signing table, which I'm so glad I did. There were hundreds of people in line, and it wrapped all the way through the university, and only a fraction of the people actually got to meet him and get up. But because I was first, I actually had a little extra time with him because he was just setting up the table and settling down. And he originally thought I was giving him chick tracts and said, "Oh, I don't want any of that." And then when I told him what it was, he immediately said, "Oh, this is marvelous. This is a great idea," and called over Mike and Susie, who are the people running his website and store. And then we've been in great contact. I've sent a lot of emails to them, and they were all for it. They just switched. I think the person who runs the store just switched. I've sort of been in contact telling him we're going to have another batch here pretty soon. But they were wonderful. I mean, he bought 1,000 copies, like straight away, just outright, to sell on his store. And as I said, apparently he was actually bringing him around to different lectures and conventions and putting him on his table with his books. I think Dawkins is just an amazing person who, has that kind of, humanism to, he's just not pretentious. And if he sees a good idea and it's there, I think he'll support it. So.
Yeah, it is one thing, I've read the books and I've seen his videos, but the one thing I always say to until you're actually in an audience listening to him, it's just a different thing altogether. I mean, he captivates an audience like no one I've ever seen before. Yeah,
I agree. I was so starstruck, actually. I mean, I used to be a waitress in Boston, and I've waited on Faye Dunaway and Bono and all these people, and I've always sort of like prided myself in the fact that I didn't get too nervous around famous people because, what's the point? But I swear I think I was shaky when I was one-on-one with Dawkins. It was just a long-time hero. When the God Delusion came out, I had John, actually, the other writer for Godless Comics, John Olson. He works at a wonderful local bookstore in Denver, Tattered Cover. It's one of the biggest independent bookstores in the country. And they had a ton of paperback copies of that book. And we bought, I don't know, like dozens really cheap and sent them to everyone we knew as presents. But yeah, Dawkins I think he's just amazing.
All right, Martin, Sheila, you've been quiet for a bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. There are no other questions in the chat room now, I don't think.
Oh, well, just to let everyone know, there's 15 minutes left to go, so, here's one just a... Oh, that's a long... You try reading that one, Martin.
Do you agree with the premise that this art form will result... this art form... Wow. Do you agree with the premise that this art form the result of exploiting... Typos everywhere. Yeah, do it again.
Yeah, please type that again. All right.
It sounds like I'm reading my hate mail.
Sheila, do you have a question there?
He's trying to retype it.
Oh, there's one. Someone's had an idea for a comic, one about the Ken Ham debate. Is that something you got in mind?
Again, I mean, we're open to anything. It's just a matter of, how to put it in comic form, really. I mean, that was sort of the debate with Skycake, when we decided to turn that into a comic. How do you translate it on the page? And we decided to have Patton Oswalt as a little narrator in the comic, walking through. But yeah, I mean, is just the debate. I can sort of see it. I mean, just a debate. Enough. One of our first comics was the No Thinking Aloud, and as much as I love it, I'm not sure if I don't know that it's one of my favorites, and part of that is it's just so much dialogue. I think that's one thing that we've realized throughout making them is they're stronger if we can tell if we can express more in images. I think it's just stronger for everyone, for audience reception. Nobody wants to see a block of text like this in a comic. They want to see an interesting illustration with as little text as possible. One of my favorite images for the Foreskin Fairy, to illustrate the point of how ridiculous it is that people can make permanent physical alterations on someone who's not old enough to speak for themselves or think for themselves is we have this illustration, just this, it's so simple. It's this one page of these two heavily tattooed parents with, like, you know, piercings, and they're just full body tattoos, getting their newborn baby a sleeve, you know, tattoo sleeve, as a permanent alteration. But I think, you know, those sort of images can do a lot more than 3 pages of dialogue trying to explain that concept. So, I mean, that's my only hesitation is, you know, we need to be able to do it in a way that has concise, efficient words and strong images.
Like Bill Nye quoting, just making some simple statement about, you know, why Noah's Ark wasn't real, and Ken Ham just saying, "But we have this book."
Yeah. I'd love that.
But that sums up the whole thing.
Right? Every time he says something, he's like, "But we have this book."
And then maybe, a quick, like, image of what circular logic is.
Yeah.
I took a symbolic logic class in undergrad, and one of my favorite things we did was our professor had us, it was during, you know, George Bush's State of the Union address, and he had us take the State of Union address and actually translate it into symbolic logic. And it was so epic to see how he was talking all in absolute, you know, absolutisms, and it was all circular logic, and it was just this brilliant way to show us that with symbols. So yeah, I would love something like that, how you can point to the book to say the book is true, and the only thing that you can, you know, the only proof you have is the book that tells you that the book is true.
Right.
Yeah, I think it could be pretty simple. I'd love it. I think it'd be great, especially with the whole ridiculous Noah movie that just came out. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know. I still haven't seen Temptation or what is the Mel Gibson?
Passion of the Christ.
Passion of the Christ.
Yeah.
I mean, I like a slaughterhouse film every once in a while, but I don't know. I saw the
picture a slaughterhouse film, except it's all in slow motion with sad music playing all the time.
I just don't think I could handle it. My cousin made me go see one of the Twilight movies in the theater, and his friends kicked me out because I was laughing so hard. The moments of silence when they're sitting there staring at each other, and then I just heard, I'm sure you guys know the Mystery Science Theater, you know, 3,000 guys. And I don't know if you've seen the things that they've been doing recently, but some of them have been recording audio commentary for new movies. And what you can do is play them while you're watching the movie. Yeah. So they had one, I just saw a clip of one that they did on Twilight. And every moment of silence, they just go, line, line. And that was all I could think of.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a threshold for. I find things too funny. I don't know.
Marty, I think that question got reformed into something coherent. So give it again, another try.
Yeah. Do you agree with the premise that this art form is the result of exploiting the cognitive dissonance that any religion has on offer?
Okay, one more time.
I think.
Do you agree? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Do you agree with the premise that this art form is the result of exploiting the cognitive dissonance that any religion has on offer?
The cognitive dissonance that the religion has, that this art form. Is it asking if I agree that are we contributing to the exploitation, or is it a way to combat the exploitation?
You know as much as I do.
Yeah, I think the question, Paul, if you can try rewording it yet again, we're really sorry.
Here's sort of an answer. Do you guys know Radiolab, the podcast?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's they play it on NPR in the States. I think it's the news station out of New York, WP. I'm not sure. It's the same one that This American Life comes from. but just Radio Lab, and it's fantastic. And the whole premise is to explore different scientific ideas, and they interview experts, they tell stories. The two guys that do it, Jay Abumrad and Robert Krulwich, they're just fantastic. And Robert Krulwich is sort of a TV personality, or an old one, doesn't really even have a scientific background. But I heard him speak. It was a Caltech graduation speech that he gave, and he was talking all about the difference between Galileo and Newton. And he was saying that the biggest difference is that Galileo wanted to spread this, he had this brilliant idea, that he wanted to spread through the world, that guess what, the Earth is not the center of the solar system, the sun is. And the way, that he was able to spread it to the public was by writing it in the popular language of the time, Italian. And he wrote it in a way that was like a popular literary fiction novel, so that it would be accessible to the masses, as opposed to Newton, who would write in high Latin that only a fraction of the most elite scientists in the world could even understand. So what Robert Krulwich, the whole point that he was making is that if science and logic and reason if it's going to be able to compete with religions, it has to make stories accessible. It has to make ideas and concepts accessible to people in a way that's engaging and entertaining, and not something that only science inner circles can understand. And so he was basically pleading with this graduating class of Caltech scientists about the necessity of taking your experiments and turning them into stories. And it actually inspired me to propose a class, which got denied, and I'll try again someday, to have like an English class specifically for science students, to try to help them write in creative and engaging ways about these concepts. So I believe that comics are a great way to do this, because it's intimidating for somebody to see a giant Richard Dawkins God Delusion book, and that's not, as much as it's brilliant and it's written in a way that is for the public. I think a lot of people, especially in an ignorant country like America, will not read it. They won't even read books, let alone a book that challenges them to think. So if we can convey important concepts in 20 small pages with illustrations, I'm hoping that it is a way to help to combat it in a realistic medium.
Yeah, on that subject, YouTube is absolutely excellent for that purpose as well.
Definitely. I'd love to. I mean, again, it's a matter of time. I can already hear Chris if I say, hey, why don't you take one of our comics and turn it into an animation? He will say, you pay me to not have to work for a month. He would need to be able to devote a lot of time. We have it, again, you can see all of our comics for free. You can read every page of them for free on Issue. The links are there through our godlesscomics.com website.
Okay, we're coming up for the last 5 minutes, and it seems we've lost the connection to our video streaming site. The site seems to be offline, but we are recording.
For me.
It's not working for me. Yeah.
Mine's working for me.
Is it? Oh, right, it's a problem at my end then. And is the video stream still going, Marty?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a problem. I'm sorry to alarm anyone there. Yeah, it's something wrong at my end here. Like I say, okay, no, we don't have time for another call, Pumpkin. It's the last 5 minutes, so we will start to wrap up. And Kona, we'll give you a little soapbox moment here, so a few minutes to promote and shout out anything you'd like.
I feel like my little speech just now about Robert Krulwich. People should watch Radio Lab or listen to Radio Lab. It's a fantastic podcast. Definitely do that. Godlesscomics.com. You can read all of our comics. We want your collaborations. If you're interested, send emails to info@godlesscomics.com. And if you know of any rich atheist who wants to help us illustrate more and print more, we're coming up to the very end of our funds. As I said, I think we're going to have just enough to print. We have 3 more, Foreskin Fairy, all about circumcision. There's an organization in San Francisco right now that was trying to make it, I think they even got it on the voting polls, to make it illegal for parents to circumcise their children within the city limits. And there was a lot of Jewish groups that were trying to fight back. So we're hoping once that's printed, I'm going to send it to a few of those organizations. But we have Foreskin Fairy, the Creation Stories, and the debate between agnosticism and atheism coming up. So we're going to have those printed hopefully within a month or so. And then we're going to be pretty much out of funds. So we're hoping that Richard Dawkins will buy those and that will give us enough money to distribute the rest as far as we can. But yeah, please collaborate with us. It's a great idea that just needs some more time and investment. And we're doing everything we can thus far. But we really appreciate just having this opportunity to, spread out to a new audience with your podcast. It means a lot to us. So thank you so much, Cal and Sheila. And I know, what were the other names? I'm sorry.
Marty. Marty's the other one.
Marty, thank you. And all of you. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, it's been great. And Sheila, your final thoughts?
I just wanted to say thanks for coming on. It was absolutely wonderful to get a chance to talk to you. And for anybody else, I guess you can find me not just here, but I also do A-News every week. New episodes come out roughly every Tuesday or Wednesday. You can find me on Facebook, find me on Twitter, @Sheila Blackadder.
Oh, we're on Facebook as well. We haven't been terribly good about advertising that, so I think we only have 50 likes or something. So please like us on Facebook, Godless Comics, and stay in touch.
Okay, and Marty, your final thoughts, please.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. It was great to have you here, but I do need to take a few moments to just address this issue that I got cut off on earlier before you showed up. I had an interaction with Jordan from Spirit, quote unquote, Science today, and people were asking what that was about. Basically, we were just exchanging pleasantries, and completely out of the blue, he just goes, well, okay, since you clearly don't want to talk to me, I don't remember the exact quote. He basically just cut off the conversation because he figured I didn't want to talk to him, and I had no idea what that was about. So basically, he seems like a bit of a douche. That's about it. That's all that was about. But I suspect he's kind of going to make a big deal out of it and go, hey, Mortimer's an asshole, or something to that effect. I don't know. So that was all that was about.
Yeah, just to wrap up, I don't know what's happening with the transmission because my software's saying we're not transmitting anything at all now. So, so you'll be listening to this on the podcast at the moment. But big thank you to Kona for coming up. And if you are somehow listening to us in the chat room right now, thumbs up and all that. And we're back next week, and it's the return of the live ponage. We're looking at the Discovery Institute's Unlocking the Mystery of Life movie. We're going to be doing our live rebuttal to it on the air. It's always a lot of fun, that. It's always very painful as well. So,
sounds fun.
Yeah. So everyone, again, big thanks to Kona, and enjoy the rest of the weekend. And if you are celebrating Easter, have a good one. And we shall see you all very soon. Thanks for tuning in, and good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. And good evening, everyone. Welcome to Trolling with Logic, 7 p.m. here in the UK and 2 p.m. Eastern Time over in the States. as you can see, our guest isn't quite here yet. We don't know what's going on, so we're going to try and hang on to. Hopefully, they'll be here very soon. But in the meantime, like I say, if you want to call in, you can ask us any questions you want. As you can see, the Skype contact details are down there, or fire us a question in the chat room. And as usual, if you call in, remember we do record everything, so it's uploaded later, so you grant us permission to use your likeness. And like I said, the recording of the show is public domain, so if you like what we're going to do, then just feel free to copy or mirror it in any way you feel like. So with me tonight, Sheila, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Cal. Thank you.
And Marty, how are you?
I'm okay.
All right, and I think we should say congratulations again to Marty. Last week you announced your wedding, and now this week you've got 10,000 subscribers. So everyone, big thumbs up and applause to Marty, and let's massage his ego a little bit more. So how's that been for you, Marty?
Yeah, no, it's no big deal really, but it's it's a landmark. I mean,
yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, you got to. You mean these things are quite important in the end. I mean, well, I suppose I'll ask you. You mean because your channel really, like the past 18 months, it's just really grown fast.
Yeah.
I mean, was there a shout out you got that caused it?
I don't know.
A subsite from Apartment J, which is owned by Brian Allen. A News is kind of it's a 50-50 thing between my co-hosts Brian Allen and Lee Moore. We cover atheist news mostly, and we do it with a lot of really inappropriate humor. There's a lot of dick jokes, I guess, and just making fun of various things and trying to add some humor into it. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun, actually. I mean, I have fun doing both of these podcasts, but I have fun with that one just because I get a chance to be immature and and just kind of talk out of my ass a little bit.
Because you have said like we're very different podcasts, kind of the format and just the tone of both is quite different.
Yes, very much so. I like doing this one because I get a chance to talk to people I probably ordinarily wouldn't get to. Yeah. Philosophers and authors and people into politics and scientists and that sort of stuff. Yeah. And it's not that we don't necessarily cover that stuff on A News, but it's a lot less serious. We don't really cover any real information, I guess. So it is. It's I love doing both of them. You guys are all awesome.
Oh, cheers. So we're all massaging each other's egos here very well. Right. Okay, and like I say, if anyone in the chat room, if you do just want to ask us a question, because I don't know, we never really get the question. We're always relaying questions for our guests. So if you do want to ask us anything at all, just fire ahead. Or if you want to call us up on Skype, feel free. And like I said, just probably one more news for the charity show was, Marty, if I'm right, I think it was the Spirit Science series that seemed to catch on for whatever. I don't know, is that just because that was going out there?
I think it's that pretty much no one else is doing it.
Yeah, and you found your niche there. And also, I can also recall the story of how you found out about Spirit Science in the first place.
Yeah, that was you I have to thank for that.
In a weird way. Just everyone to let you know, as you know, myself and Marty are friends on Skype and all that. And before we did our Friday night podcast, usually on Fridays at about 10:30 my time, you would always PM saying, I want to watch some stupid videos because I've got some alcohol here.
Yeah.
And then I scoured YouTube, I found Spirit Science, I sent it through to you, and you went silent for about an hour. And you said, I'm sorry, but I actually did fall out of my chair laughing.
Yeah.
And you had to recompose yourself to speak to me again.
Yeah, I had that perfect blood alcohol level where everything Jordan said was funny.
Yeah.
So it became extremely funny, and
It just got funnier and funnier. More views. Okay, and Sheila, do you have any announcements or anything like that you can talk about?
Oh, not especially, I guess. It's been kind of a slow week.
Yeah, so
it's springtime, it's beautiful, everything's going well.
And how's A News doing?
A News is doing wonderfully.
Because we've never really spoken in depth about A News, so maybe you could give us a little background on that. while we wait for our guest?
Sure, I can do that. A News is kind of a thing with you, Cal. You're asking.
I've never had a problem with it.
What's happening with me? Not really that much. I'm always just busy doing this. No, I'm not used to getting questions because we do have the Antimatter Bandits that's ongoing, and like I say, we're coming to the end of Voyager season 1, Marty, aren't we?
Yeah.
I say, and for those of you who don't know, Antimatter Bandits is an offshoot of this show. It's myself and Marty. We've done quite a lot of it so far. But there is other Fulcrum Tool and other people you'll recognise from this. We just get together and we like to do commentaries on bad science fiction. For whatever reason, we just seem to really enjoy ripping on really bad sci-fi. And yeah, we've almost done the whole first season of Voyager, and we've got a whole lot of other movies lined up, don't we, Marty?
Yeah.
I think today
we've been talking about. Mission to Mars we've been talking about in 2012.
And today someone mentioned Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah.
And
that's a guilty pleasure of mine because it really is so bad it's awesome.
Yeah. Like I always just loved the line in that film, like thieves always taking what isn't yours. Which is just like, isn't that the whole point of a thief?
And it's there's also the constant overacting from Jeremy Irons and what's her name? The Empress who isn't even trying to act at all.
Logic's confirmed this week, didn't he?
Yeah, he said he's interested, but it depends on what time slot we can get him. And I haven't. Well, maybe he's responded now. I'm not going to go check now, but
yeah. But well, I think if you're subscribed to Marty, it's a pretty safe bet you'll know who Logic is. He's a really cool, funny, masked debunker is the best way. But yeah, he's awesome. He's very funny, and hopefully we can get him a good time slot, and we'd love to have him on. Okay. Notice nobody's got anyone. Nope, there's no meaningful questions right now. People are just. The chat room is filled up with trolls today for whatever reason, so... yeah. And like I say, just anyone, if you do want to call in, I'll just see if we have...
We clearly have this troll there. What's his name? Angry Pumpkin, it says.
Someone's wanting you to sing a lullaby, Marty.
No.
Not even a Norwegian one.
Nope. That's not going to happen.
No.
I don't sing, not even in the shower.
Maybe you could read out some IKEA instructions or something in your native tongue.
You translate the pictures?
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, IKEA is just look at them and then look at the instructions and then go no way and just go back to what I was doing before.
What's happening?